we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. People, a couple of things before we get rolling. Number 1, squirrel's on one. So if I run into cat issues this evening, you're gonna have to bear with me because yeah, it's like I was telling Mark before we went live, it's like having a 2-year-old with claws. This the cat fetches and does a lot of really cool things. It's just a very loving little animal. It is also the strongest willed thing that God has ever created. I mean, you talk about focusing on one thing. When that cat wants something, nothing else in the world matters. And unfortunately, at this point, the cat wants everything on my desk. So she's outside of the room, and maybe we'll let her back in for the cat in the basket moment. But as of this exact moment, the cat must stay outside. So I want to go over a couple of other things too before we get rolling. Number 1, we got a lot of new people, and that's awesome. It really is. It's the dream of the lifeboat is to reach as many people as possible, right? So the message of sobriety is one that Mark and I take very seriously. So we're trying to push it out as far as we can. However, in doing so, we get a lot of new people in, and most reach out to me, which is good. It's exactly what I want to happen. If I'm taking a couple of days to get back to anybody, I just want you to bear with me. We got the number of emails and the number of people that have reached out to me. The traffic is through the roof, which is awesome. I'm not complaining, but I just want you to be aware of the fact that if it takes a day or two for me to get back to you, it's not that I dislike you or I'm blowing you off or anything like that. It's just that there's a lot of them, and which is really good stuff. We also have Lady Fiona Crispin in the comment section. So we would like to say hello to Lady Fi. We know that she's been going through it with health and things, but it's good to have her back. Feels somewhat more normal when I look out on the deck and I see Fi out there. That's something that just I don't know. It feels right. That's a good thing. And I also want to thank everybody for taking the time after the videos to stop over and leave a comment. It astounds me. Because I know from a lot of other people who do what I do that it doesn't always, you don't always get that kind of response when you ask people to do things, especially on YouTube. Usually it goes in one ear and out the other, but you people really stepped up to the plate, and that's good. At least we think it trips the algorithm. The only one who really seriously knows are the people there, and I'm not sure they know. But we would think that perhaps somebody at YouTube knows what the algorithm is doing. The truth of the matter is, I think that it was summed up nicely that the banana eating chimps in the basement at YouTube. I think Jacob Forrester calls them the banana eating chimps in the basement at YouTube, but they are definitely the ones that make the decisions, and no one knows how any of that works. We really don't. So, but tonight's subject matter is one that I don't know. We certainly don't talk about enough. because if, oh, by the way, tonight's subject matter is courage. And if you may or may not have seen that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. But one of the things about sobriety that I think people lose sight of is that it takes a tremendous amount of courage. It really does. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to fight the good fight. And it takes a tremendous amount of courage to be honest about the inability to control drugs or alcohol in your life. It's something that I think people take for granted, especially people who have not, been through this and had to wrestle with this. When you read the 12 steps and one of them is, we admitted that we were powerless over our substance. That takes massive amounts of courage. It really does. To step up to the plate and say, this is something I can't control. And I mean to say it, people. I don't mean to come to that realization, because most of us as addicts knew way before we decided to quit that we can't manage our life and that, that we had no control at all over our drug of choice. But to actually articulate that, to have that come out of your mouth and to say it to a group of people, whether it's in the comment section here or whether you're going to a meeting or however you're doing it, that takes courage. And, we've talked before about, courage comes in a lot of different varieties. And I think that one of the, you've heard me say so many times that as a public speaker, there's nothing cheesier than giving someone the definition of a word as a way to start your presentation. Truthfully, it's downright cheesy, but there are times that you kind of have to do it, right? Because I think that there are so many words that we have used for so long that we tend to forget what they really mean, right? If I said to you, what does courage mean? Well, it means, you're going to do something and, no, give me the definition of courage, right? I think most people would truthfully have a problem with exactly what, the textbook definition is, because there are two of them. And the first is the ability to do something that frightens one. Don't mistake those people that are just plain stupid. I'm not being cruel or anything else, but if you're doing something that ought to scare you beyond belief, but doesn't make you courageous, it makes you stupid, right? When you feel afraid and you do something anyway, when you push through the fear to get something done, that's courage. It's not a matter of just doing something that looks daring. It's facing your fear and pushing through, right? The definition is the ability to do something that frightens one. That's number one. And the second one, I think, applies just as much as the first one when it comes to recovery. And that is strength in the face of pain or grief. Strength in the face of pain or grief. People, if getting sober isn't a combination of those two things, then nothing is, right? That is literally the textbook definition of, or definitions of courage. And that's what it takes. And I think that it's one of the things that you should be allowed to pat yourself on the back for. We talked last night about how, you gotta walk a fine line. You don't want to be prideful, right? It's something that can cause problems, but you also don't want to sell yourself short, right? Alan Ballantyne has lost a third of his body weight. And I got to keep saying that on here because he won't. Alan will never take a bow for the things that he's doing, which I find nothing short of amazing. Sober people will never understand the courage of going through withdrawal. It's literally a living hell. I agree with you. I caught that out of the side of my eye, and normally I try not to grab comments until the end, but I know that my bobbleheaded partner is nodding because this is something that he and I know a great deal about. There is nothing like withdrawal, people. It is one of the most uncomfortable and there's nothing like it. There really isn't. There is nothing like it on this planet. It's not just the pain and the discomfort and everything else. It's the knowledge you can make it stop. You understand? That's really what makes that so difficult. If you break your leg and you're in pain, that's it, right? What are you going to do? you're going to ride it out. And over a period of time, it's going to get better, that the pain is going to go away. But to know that you are experiencing the worst pain that you've ever felt in your life, and a phone call will make it stop. Pushing through that takes a tremendous amount of courage. It really does. And I know that the same thing goes on. The same thing goes on with all other forms of drugs as well. You know, as you start to go through the process of withdrawal happens with everything. Don't get it messed up at all. If your previous substance of choice was methamphetamine or cocaine or anything else, there are still withdrawal symptoms for every drug on the planet. There are. Don't let anybody tell you any different. I know that alcohol and opiates tend to rise to the top when people start to talk about withdrawal, because they are the physical withdrawals are so defined that it tends to make people dwell on it and talk about it. But it doesn't matter what your previous substance of choice was. You had to go through withdrawals, even if they were just mental. The mental withdrawals are the worst part of it. It really is. At least for me, it was always the toughest part, was, dealing with the, all of the stuff that comes with the mental anguish of withdrawal. I know that you people are probably familiar with the awards that and the commendations that are given out by the U.S. Army. I was reading a book recently, and it was about Congressional Medal of Honor winners, and this is one story after another of the most courageous stuff that you've ever heard. Literally, the most courageous things that you have ever heard. The kinds of things that these people did. And the way the book is written, there's nothing flowery. It usually starts out May 2nd, Lieutenant so-and-so. It's just facts. They're giving you exactly what happened. But there was a story in there of a guy in Vietnam, and he had what was left of his platoon with him. And he realized that they were surrounded on all sides. The enemy was there, and he brought everybody together and said, here's what it boils down to. There's no way we're fighting our way out of this. Plain and simple. Now, we're going to put this to a vote, because we can try to fight our way out of this, and we're going to die. We might be able to take a few of them with us, or I can set off this smoke grenade and I can tell them to bomb it right on top of us. Either way, we're not getting out of this alive. And the amazing part of this story is that as they're telling it, they also did an interview with the person who heard that in the cockpit of the jet. Because when they call this in, they touch off a smoke grenade and they'll say 2 clicks left or 2 clicks south or whatever. And they give you, this guy set off a smoke grenade and said, bring it in on my smoke. And the level of courage that it takes for somebody to say, you know what, bomb me. And for his entire platoon to say, you know what, if we're not getting out of this, we may as well take out as many people as we can and ensure that we don't suffer. And, people, my faith, and the things I believe. I don't shove them down anyone's throat, but the things that I believe. I've been very vocal about them. And I believe that day, God was on his game. The smoke blew left. And what ended up happening is 2 jets came in and literally dropped bombs on exactly where that smoke was going and blew a hole that these guys ran through. And they ended up catching some burns and dealing with some other stuff, but the majority of them ended up getting out of there. But for courage above and beyond, he was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for what took place that day. And as I read through this book, I continued to read, and I started to look up some of these people, and the number of them that came back from war and became addicts was astounding. And the individual that I was just talking about said, he's no longer with us, but in an interview said that, the guy said the courage that took You have to be proud of that. And he said, like so many other people before him and so many other people that will say it afterwards, he said that it just seemed like what I was supposed to do. I don't think that it was, he said, and the fact that everybody voted, he said, if one person in this platoon votes to fight our way out of this and not do this, we'll go with that. Needs to be a unanimous vote. And it was. Everybody said, nah, just do it. But what he said he was more proud of was getting his addictions under control. Now, if you're a Congressional Medal of Honor winner, right? Not an award that gets handed out a whole lot, people. Literally the highest honor that can be given from the United States of America for valor, which is another really cool word for courage, right? Valor in the face of danger. But more than that, he was proud of getting his addictions under control. People, what we do is worthy of high fives. What we're doing in fighting this good fight is worthy of pats on the back. And I think that we do a tremendous disservice when we don't dwell on that. Honestly, I'm making a conscious effort as the cat that sits in the captain's chair to try to spend a little bit more time being positive. In the process of talking about addiction, our biggest challenge is overcoming the day-to-day stuff that is difficult to deal with, right? The rest of it is all hee-haw. It really comes down to having to overcome and having to cope and having to go through this process of coping, this process of dealing with the emotional day-to-day stuff that we have never dealt with in our life. That's really what it boils down to, right? That's where the rubber meets the road. So we talk about techniques and we talk about other things in it, and we dwell on how you cope with the bad stuff. I think that we need to spend a little bit more time, and I'm going to make an effort to make sure we do, but I think we need to spend a little bit more time on celebrating the fact that what we're doing is courageous, right? What we're doing takes valor. It takes guts. And addiction is literally the devil playing a game with you. Sobriety is with God. Appreciate life as it is. You know what, Ryan? I agree with you. But I also have to say this, people, because I got an email, and if you're the person that sent this email, I'm not busting on you because you're going to notice that I didn't say your name. But I got an email from somebody that was talking about my faith, mine, not anyone else's. And they said that, we have said, and we say all the time, this is not a religious channel. Mark and I are on the same page with our religious beliefs, but we don't shove them down your throat. This is by no means a religious channel. We talk to everybody, regardless of their religious beliefs, about getting clean and sober off of drugs, being of the firm belief that regardless of what you're going to subscribe to in terms of a belief in God or a belief in anything else, or no belief, no matter what it is that you're going to choose as your spirituality in life, you're not going to get there drunk or high. That's our belief. So we want to make sure that we get that under control, and then you can take care of that. You can pick and choose what you want to believe and everything else, but spirituality takes a backseat to a needle. And that's just sort of the way that life goes. Spirituality tends to take a backseat to any drug abuse, right? So does family, so does everything. So I get this email, and the email was basically chastising me because they said that believing what I believe, hey, Joe Birdwell, believing what I believe, they thought that perhaps I should be pushing the God thing a little bit more on the channel. And one of the reasons that they gave was because they don't believe that people are going to be able to get sober without God. And they don't believe that, that they basically said in a nicer way than I'm probably going to put it right now, that you don't run into a lot of nice people who don't believe. And Jesse Brown is about as cool a guy as you're ever going to come across. Just a great guy. We do not believe the same thing. right? The man's an atheist. Great guy. The stuff that he posts over on the Facebook group page is the most positive messages that you will ever see anywhere. And he's consistent as hell with them. And, on a regular basis, he is posting just uplifting stuff that if you read and pay attention to can literally change your life. So yeah, I am really strong in my faith, but I'm offended by the proposition that that you gotta believe the same thing I do in order to be a nice person. So if you're the person that wrote the email, I love you, I really do. But anything like that probably isn't going to get the response you want from me or from Mark. The bottom line is that we really want this to be an inclusive and wide open channel. And I will say this, I don't say it often, but I will say this. You want to hear more about what I believe, you can reach out to me and I will be more than happy to talk to you about it. I'm just not going to do it here. And everyone knows I'm a Christian. What I mean is, if you want to talk more about theology, I'd be more than happy to do that, but you got to reach out to me. It's not something that I'm going to be doing here from the front of the room, so to speak. And if I hurt your feelings in bringing that up, at least I didn't use your name, right? Hopefully that didn't hurt anyone's feelings. But I do want to make a conscious effort here on the channel to start leaning on the right side of the equation when it comes to being a little bit more positive. We're always going to have to talk about the day-to-day struggles, but in the process of doing that, I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that we're fighting the good fight, and we tend to be a kinder and a gentler group of people than I have come across anywhere else on the net. And I would like to celebrate the stuff that makes us unique more than I want to dwell on things that very oftentimes people look at as a kind of defect. Unfortunately, we have one of the only disorders that I know of that people crap all over, right? I mean, truthfully, if the disorder of the brain that you're running with causes you to be depressed, people say, that's terrible. I feel bad for that person. If the disorder that you have causes anything else going on in your body, people say, boy, that's unfortunate. But if the disorder that you have causes the reward center of your brain to malfunction and reward the host for doing things that are not in the host's best interest, right? If the reward center of your brain starts flooding you with feel-good chemicals for drinking or doing drugs, and in the process causes you to become addicted to those substances, society treats you like a leper. And that's something that I have a problem with. And it's one of the reasons that right from the word go, Mark and I wanted to do this channel. We wanted the world to see that addicts are not just people too, but amazing people, right? Some of the best people I've ever met in my life are recovering addicts. And there is something to be said. The gentleman that touched off that grenade and said, bring it in on my smoke, you can guarantee that when that was over, he was never the same, right? He was never the same. You walk out of something like that and you end up on the other side, you're going to have a different view on life. And I'm not comparing addiction to that kind of heroism. But I will tell you that anytime you endorse something that can kill you and you pop out on the other side stronger than you entered, you're going to drag with you a different philosophy on life. It has been my experience across the board that people who are able to slay the beast, so to speak, people who are able to fight the good fight and win, tend to be a different kind of human. They tend to be kinder. They tend to be more understanding. They tend to be a hell of a lot less judgmental. And these are some of the attributes that this channel's got in spades, right? There are more people on this channel who don't judge one another than any other place I've ever been. And I think that that's something we all ought to pump our fists in the air every once in a while and take a victory lap for. You follow me? Honestly, it's a trap in recovery that's really easy to fall into, to where you almost feel like there should be a certain level of apology for everything that we do, right? I mean, we're here, we're fighting the good fight and we're winning, but we have to because we screwed up so bad in our previous life. The point of everything that we do, right, is the big piece of glass in the front. We talk about this every day, right? We don't want to be spending a lot of time in the rear view mirror staring backwards because there's not a lot of good that happens from that. So as we stare through the big glass and we focus on our future, I don't think we should lose sight of the lessons learned and what it has done to change us. Because I really do believe, people, that once a person becomes sober and really is living that happy and sober life, they are better because of it. They are a better human being. They're not just the best incarnation that they were, right? You end up a more loving and a more caring person. You end up somebody that is more compassionate, more sympathetic and empathetic and everything else. There is so much positive that can come out of this kind of struggle and this kind of fight. And the fact is that it takes a stink load of courage to fight the good fight. It takes a load of courage to admit to the world that you have shortcomings of any kind. Seriously, as human beings, the phrase that I have heard uttered less than any other phrase in my entire life, honestly, is I don't know. People almost refuse to say it, right? I don't know. No one ever wants to say they don't know something. No one ever wants to say that they don't have an opinion on something. No one ever they always want to come across in a certain way. It's just sort of the nature of humanity. So to take that a step farther and to say, you know what? I'm a drug addict. I'm an alcoholic, right? I'm a junkie. I'm a tweaker, whatever, however you want to say it, right? I have a substance abuse disorder. However you want to say it, to step up to the plate and to utter that phrase takes an amazing amount of guts. Truthfully, it takes an amazing amount of guts. And everybody here has done that. In fact, they do it day in and day out. And if you follow that through to the final conclusion, even more than that, we then admit the faults, right? That abuse disorder caused us. You know, we've got people who see, you know, the first thing that comes to mind would be Alan Ballantyne's interview or Niall's interview. You know, when Niall said in the interview, you know, what kind of guy walks away from his kids? If that didn't get you, I mean, right where you live, how about the courage that took? Seriously, I hope this is coming across, people. It's not just a word. It's not just a definition on a piece of paper. You know, what we're doing here every day is worthy of praise. And I don't think we do it enough. And I sure as hell, I'm going to start stepping up to the plate and spending more time letting each and every person on this boat realize that I appreciate the guts that it takes for you to show up here and admit your faults and to get up every single day and start to try to live a life that is brand new to you at 30 years old, or brand new to you at 26, or brand new to you at 50, right? That takes courage. And that courage is worthy of praise. And you know, people wander by the boat from time to time. It's the truth. There are people that come to this channel just to check out and see what's going on. And they read the comments section and they listen to the things that are said here. I want the world to know that we're not defective human beings that are doing everything within their power to try to be normal, right? We're amazing human beings that in so many ways are a cut above, right? There is a level of honesty to what we do that is unheard of in the rest of the world. You know how I throw the air quotes up and I talk about normal people, right? Normal people. You think normal people get together and list the faults that they have in their past? You think normal people get together and say, oh, no, look, I never did drugs. I'm not that guy. I did cheat with 3 of my secretaries, though. You think that's going on? I don't. I don't think they air their dirty laundry. We have to. It's part of something that we have to do in order to remain sober. Last night, somebody made a great comment that said, if you have to get allergic to BS if you're going to be, if you want to remain allergic to your substance of choice. Well, that's the truth, right? And what we do every day is an allergy to BS. We own our past, right? Do you realize, people, that we have been saying this literally since the first day the boat opened? There are 2 things that we're going to do. We're going to own our past and we're going to celebrate our victories. I think we've done a hell of a job at owning our past. And I think that we've been halfway decent at celebrating our victories. And on that subject, the people who are 35 days sober, and we get really excited about that, those are great things. But getting up in the morning and putting one foot in front of the other and saying, today I'm not going to use, is a victory, right? Whether that's your first day or your 500th. One of the beautiful things about this stuff is every single morning, still your first day. I don't care if you got 6 years in or whatever, since we really do this one day at a time, it doesn't really matter. Those 35 days that you got, Brandon's at day 35. I'm proud of him. I really am. But you know where they're at, don't you? Use me as 6 years and 6 months. You know where that time is? It's in my rear view mirror. And you know how much it means? Well, as of tomorrow morning, when the sun comes up, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. I'm only as good as the day that I'm in. I'm happy as hell that I've linked 6 years and 6 months of those together. But today's the day that matters. And every day we get up and we fight that good fight. Every single day. That takes courage. When the sun comes up, you got to step out of that bed and you got to have intestinal fortitude to continue to do it. Mark has linked 11 years of that together. That's a hell of a lot of days. But tomorrow morning, he's no different than anybody who's listening to the sound of my voice right now, who's going to start tomorrow morning at day 1. We all are going to get up tomorrow and just try to get through that day. It takes guts. And I'm proud of you. I really am. I'm proud of the people who came back to the boat. I've gotten some recent comments and some recent emails from people that said, you know what, man, I was listening in the beginning. I went away and I ended up using, or I ended up doing whatever. You know what, people, to come back and say that, right? To come back and say, I screwed up. Things were going good. I screwed it up. You know what that takes, right? Courage. It does. Every single aspect of what we do in this game is courageous. I want you to ever forget that. I'm going to beat the drum far more often about it, but I want all of you to high five each other. I want all of you to give virtual high fives, virtual pats on the back, virtual hugs, because we're winning. We really are. We're winning. You know how we win this, right? One addict at a time. One person fighting the good fight and getting sober. Every time the ranks grow by one person that says, I'm not doing that anymore, we're winning. I am proud of every single person on this boat. I really am. I'm proud of every single person on this boat. There's a quick draw, Charlie. Relapse is part of recovery. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is. It's a part of it is absolutely a part of recovery. One of our favorite quotes around here is, doesn't matter if you get knocked down 7 times as long as you get up 8. One of the things that I am most impressed with is when somebody stumbles and then tells us that they did. Honestly, we're a virtual family, which means that it is pretty easy to hide if you want to. So every time somebody comes back in here and says, you know what, this is what I did, shows integrity. It really does. Integrity is doing the right thing when no one's watching. No one's ever watching here. Well, with the exception of me and Mark, right? But the rest of you, there's a certain anonymity to what we do, but it hasn't slowed down this crew from being brutally honest with all of the mistakes that they're making. Every time people stumble, they've come here and admitted to it and then got back up. And you know something, people? No one's ever beat on anybody for it. We've never had anybody say something stupid. Honestly, the crew has been amazing. It just proves the point that I was making earlier. When you get through that, right? When you are able to come out of the backside, that's when it really, that's when it really starts to show just how much more compassionate and understanding people in recovery are. It's nothing short of amazing. And I'm proud as hell to be associated with this group. I really am. And this is the part of the show where I normally turn this over to my bobbleheaded partner. Before I do, people, there will be no cat in the basket at the end of this. I apologize, but as I said, squirrel was on one. So, Mark, how are you today, bud?
Hope everybody else is doing good too. Been watching the chat there, and a lot of good comments, a lot of good advice, and I think everybody was pretty much saying, "Preach it, brother, preach it." That's kind of what it. Yeah, I mean, and I think that you hit on some really good points because we don't. I think part of what keeps us strong in our recovery is being able to hear others say how good we're doing, or just give you a compliment and say, "Hey, man, I see you." That's all you gotta say. I see you over there. You're doing good. I see you. Might not be saying it all the time, but I see you. I used to say that to my kids, coaching ball and stuff. That was kind of our code word. They'd be at the plate and I'd see them do something I asked them to do. And I'd say, "Hey, I see you." And only me and him would know what we were talking about, right? So, sometimes that's all it takes. This is kind of off the, subject from yesterday too, where, basically self-affirmation does help build courage. You're reaffirming to yourself that you're good. You're reaffirming all that kind of stuff when you're talking to yourself. So it allows you to get out there and allows you to be a little bit more, confident, courageous, that kind of thing. And I think all these words kind of play together and all these definitions do at some level. It can be an action. Courage can be an action. Or courage could not be an action. It could just be an emotion, that kind of a thing. There's a lot of stuff there. And, I would say this, guys. Just think about what takes more courage. Does it take more courage to admit when you're wrong? Or does it take more courage to scream it when you're right? And that's kind of what we've had to do through our recovery, especially at the beginning. You have to be able to say, "Man, I messed up." And the second that rolls out of your mouth, that will prove to everybody there sitting, talking, wherever you're at, that you're serious about what you're getting ready to say. And then it gets rid of, I had this thing in the group thing that I do, here where I live, it's called pride versus stigma. There's such a big stigma against, drug addicts. It's a huge thing. Tommy touched on it. And a lot of that comes from the pride that, that they have, and they look down the nose at you like you're whatever. And it takes courage for those of us pushing through all that negativity. It's what it amounts to. And if we're able to, continue that courage by building each other up and all those kinds of things, it will definitely put forth the face that we want the world to see when they look at us. And like it or not, guys, it's going to be a blanket thing. And I hate to say it that way, but everybody knows when you look around, they're not going to say, "Well, there's Mark, Tommy, whoever else, they're drug addicts." No, they're going to look at the whole group and they're going to say, "Those are drug addicts." You know what I mean? And that's what they do. It's going to be a blanket thing. So it takes courage, individual courage, to be able to continue on in that kind of environment. And I have to say this, guys, it's getting better. It really is. But yeah. So, you okay, man?
You know what? I'm blown away. I had a light bulb go on. You know, that happens from time to time.
Go for it, man. I'll shut up. Go.
No, not nearly as often. I hope I didn't mean to show that as much as I did, but I'm looking out onto the crew and I've been looking at Ryan, right? You know who that is? That is Ryan 488888. I was talking about you, not just, I think yesterday or the day before you came up. That is the Ryan that reached out to us from rehab. You remember? Yeah.
Well, I remember that now. Now that you say that.
Yeah. I read his letter on the boat. Yeah, it wasn't about you. I just looked and went, wait a sec. I know who that is. That's awesome. Again, people, when I said people coming back to the boat, that's not who I was talking about. Hey, Ryan, good to see you, buddy. Yeah. Ryan was, for those of you that don't remember, Ryan came here and started talking about, he was drinking a water bottle a day of vodka. Yeah, he got sober. And he was talking about going into a medical assisted treatment program for alcohol. I was a little nervous about it. And the crew just stepped up. There were so many people. I have never done medical assisted treatment for alcohol. I had no idea what to say. Drinking a water bottle of vodka a day. I was just talking about you like 2 shows ago. But, and he actually reached out to us, people from rehab, and said, I've put on 20 pounds. I'm doing push-ups. And then he sent a really great letter after the fact, and I came on and I read it. But I was just talking about you. And at that night, I could not for the life of me remember what your name or your avatar was. But so good to see you, Mark. I apologize.
Oh,
I wasn't trying to cut you off. I was just like that. The light bulb thing kind of went off. I was
I think everybody's seen it in your face. I was like, maybe he read a comment he wants to talk about. So that's
I'm blown away. That's so cool, Ryan.
Yeah, Brian, that's awesome, brother. I mean, we've talked about your situation a few times here, and the reason why is because it's such a great thing to happen there. And I can't tell you how impressed people are, and myself, that you were able to go do that and just do what you did. And for us to be even just a little part of that, and, we're honored to even be able to do that, to even say that. Because it does. It takes a lot of courage. And if I remember right, Ryan's young, right?
Yeah. He's in his 20s.
I mean, and I hate to bring the age thing in there, but it does play a factor, guys. It really does. The younger you are, typically it's a harder thing to get people into rehab and for them to really take it serious. And, because they just haven't been in the life all that long, probably. Or if they have, it was, just youth itself lends to a little bit of, not wanting to conform and all that kind of thing. But no, it's so great, and I think it really fits into what we're talking about, because what he did there took a lot of courage.
No question.
I mean, when you're in, anybody that's never been to like an in-house rehab, when you're standing at that door, I can tell you right now, that is probably one of the most scary feelings you will ever feel in your life. Because you have, at that point, when you walk through that door, you're relinquishing what you used to be. And you're giving that control to somebody else, at least for a time. And that's hard to do. And I talked about this with, in my own story. And, again, I feel so blessed to have what I have. Because my wife grabbed my hand, flipped me back around, looked me dead in the eye, and said, we'll be here when you get out. And that's exactly what I needed to hear. Because seriously, that was my fear. I really feared that I would be in there for 4 or 5 days, come back, and all my stuff would just be gone. I really did, she never really, showed me any of that kind of emotion or anything, but that's just one of those things that creeps in your mind,
First thing your head goes to, you bet.
Yeah, and it takes courage, it takes courage, it takes the willingness to admit that you're scared. That in itself is courage. I know it sounds kind of backwards, but it's true.
No, you're right.
I mean, if you can...
He was also the same guy that said, that talked about seeing the look of disappointment in his dad's eye. You remember that?
Yeah.
And that was the most difficult part. I just saw Cemetery said he was drinking the vodka by the fifths. Good Lord, cemetery. Yeah, that's,
that's a lot, brother.
I've watched that kind of drinking before. I think I've told the story on here. My first wife had gotten to that point where she would drink a fifth at a time. Thank God you beat that. That's not an addiction that people get through. Again, there you go. Another perfect example of pumping your fist in the air and taking a victory lap. Good for you, brother. Because that kind of addiction, if you quit cold turkey on a fifth a day, you're going to die. Honestly, that's complete alcohol dependence. That's not just, a drinking problem. We're talking about an alcohol abuse disorder that literally will kill you. You know what I mean?
It's at a totally different level than what most.
It's at a totally different level.
And it
is at a totally different level.
I don't see how. Like I said, I don't think, and I know Tommy hasn't either. Neither one of us really fought alcohol.
No.
And thank God that we didn't, because because a lot, we've talked about codependency here, and unfortunately, alcohol becomes one of the easiest codependent drugs because it's so readily available. It's there.
Yep.
I remember when I was a kid, when you get sick, what do? You go take some NyQuil. Well, the alcohol problem got so bad in our country and throughout the world, they took it out of there. They took the alcohol out of NyQuil for that reason, because alcoholics were drinking NyQuil to get alcohol. And my uncle,
something I watched a guy do that once.
You're all right, man.
Yeah, I watched a guy do that once on Sunday. We were going to play golf, and we were in a place that had blue laws, so we went to a place and we got to the city, and he stopped by the store and said, "Oh, and I need a 12 pack." And the woman said, "Oh no, it's Sunday. We don't sell alcohol on Sunday." And he bought 3 bottles of NyQuil.
Yeah.
And he joked. He said, I said, "What is that going to do?" He said, "That's the 13th step to Alcoholics Anonymous." He said, he used to call it the 13th. But cemetery, you should take a bow and a lap, because that's really not an easy addiction to kick when you get it.
Yeah, Ryan says he drank NyQuil too. Yeah. And that's the thing, guys. My uncle was so bad that when he couldn't find what he wanted, because I live in one of those states. I live in Indiana. The laws are different now, but up until 2 years ago, you couldn't buy anything on Sunday. But I live on the border, so everybody would just go across the border, get what they. But anyway, but my uncle, he couldn't get what he would typically drink for some reason. I don't know exactly the situation, but we caught him chugging down a bottle of 90% isopropyl alcohol.
Oh yeah,
rubbing alcohol. And I'm sitting there thinking, how can you? I can't even put the stuff on my skin without it like making me cough. And you know what I mean? But that's where we get to, guys. And, for alcoholics, it might get to that. For those of us that have a pill or a heroin addiction or something like that, it gets to different things. We do things we don't ever think we would ever do. And and that's what I'm saying. It takes courage to admit all those crazy things that we did. But the thing of it is, that is one of the very first steps that you have to do. You have to, again, you have to admit it.
Alan Ballantyne just said something that I need you to kind of explain this to me, Alan, because this is an Aussie thing and a New Zealand thing. I have a lot of friends now because of the lifeboat in Australia and New Zealand, and they talk about methylated spirits a lot. I don't know what it is. I know that it's not.
It's kind of like menthol cigarettes, Tommy.
I know it's not to be consumed, right? It wasn't meant for that reason. Like you're supposed to use, methylated spirits for something else, right? It's like for cleaning or starting your car or something. But I don't know exactly. So yeah, if somebody in the comment section, one of you crazy Vegemite eaters, could explain to me what exactly methylated spirits are, I would appreciate that.
I heard it was really bad. That stuff was
whatever it is, it's really bad. I know one of the people that we've had on the boat before talked about burning their entire insides out. 1 second, people. Mark, cover for me.
He's taking care of a cat issue, I guarantee it. That cat's been giving him all kinds of issues.
Driving me crazy at the door, people. I'm sorry, not very professional. But you know how it is. It's squirrel was Yeah, I don't know. Oh goodness, I used to drink Listerine too.
My uncle, guys, and I talked about my uncle just very briefly, but just to let you guys understand how deep people get, my uncle had his esophagus banded 3 times, and he still couldn't quit. And that's, he passed away. His esophagus basically exploded in his neck. So what I'm saying is that if everybody tells you that, oh, you can just put this down and you can just, there's a few people out there that probably can, but it'd be hard for me to say that they'd ever been on some sort of high level alcohol stuff. You know what I mean? I'm talking like.
Oh yeah, I think when you start getting up to the, to where you're drinking a fifth a day, you know what I mean? That what people, this is something that I think oftentimes people lose sight of. But a hangover is acute alcohol withdrawal. That's exactly what's happening. Your body is literally within 24 hours going into withdrawal. And the more alcohol you drink, the worse the hangover is, obviously. And when you're drinking a fifth a day, that's the kind of stuff that you normally don't see in real life, right? You see it in movies, but when you see the person that gets up and they're like this, I mean, literally like my first wife would shake so badly in the morning that I would pour the first drink because her hand would be like this. You know what I mean? Stuff would be flying all that she literally, until she got that first one in her. And then she would be right as rain after that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that is one of the telltale signs for people that don't know. They shake, alcoholics will shake when they're withdrawing, and it's pretty viciously. Immediate. I mean, it can get violent too. I had a guy I worked with, a coworker. Unfortunately, again, he passed away. He hadn't even hit 50 years old, and his son and wife walks downstairs, and he's laying on the couch dead. And that's, and I worked with this guy side by side for years. And I can tell you right now that, I'm not going to say that I assume, but I think even the paramedics and the coroner and everything else, judging by his history, they didn't do an autopsy for that reason. Because they knew he was a high level alcoholic. But guess what? He was high functioning too. It's craziest thing I'd ever seen. I mean, honestly.
Mark, did you read that? Lady Phi answered the question for us. Denatured alcohol. That's what they're drinking. In I guess on that side of the world, they call it, also called methylated spirits. It's ethanol. They're talking about drinking denatured alcohol, like the stuff you use to clean. Good Lord.
Yeah, I mean, don't they use that to like clean engine parts and stuff?
Exactly what it's for. It's for degreasing things. Oh, Lord. Alan, that's awful. I am so, yeah.
And you hear things like that, guys, and I know some people are thinking, my gosh, that's extreme, and you guys are correct on this one for sure. But people need to understand that that's where our minds go. We are not who we are when we're doing that kind of stuff.
Not in your right mind,
yeah,
I believe is the term.
Yeah, you're just not, guys. I don't know how else to say it. So, again, there's not too much that me and Tommy haven't heard or seen yet. That's one that I have not, to be honest with you.
Here's the thing. I've heard. I just didn't know if they had just said denatured alcohol, I would have been a lot more scared. I thought methylated spirits was something. Maybe you hear the term spirits and you think, I think booze. But they're literally talking about.
I wonder if it's the same thing as something we would call over here mineral spirits.
Well, she read it right off of the definition. So what she's talking about is just what you're talking about. That's for taking grease off of parts for your car. Like I've used denatured alcohol for all kinds of stuff, but I cannot imagine drinking it. And
let me say this. Let me say this real quick though. We're not laughing, guys. This is shock. Is what this is.
Yeah.
It's like amazed shock because, guys, I mean, think about that for a second. If you walk into an auto parts store somewhere or a mechanic's place and they got these big red boxes with these big heavy duty gloves they put the parts in there and they got these brushes. They turn the machine on and it shoots mineral spirits all over this stuff and they clean it. They clean engine parts with it, literally. If they're drinking that, that is, oh my God. Yeah, again, that laugh is not funny laugh. That's like,
right. Yeah. Not funny, ha ha. Funny, holy moly.
I want to clarify that because I don't want people thinking we're laughing because that's funny, because it's not. It's just like shocking, I guess. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. Wow.
So 5 more days and Brandon hits, 4 more days and he hits 40 days sober. That is a record. Well done, my man. I shot, we went back and forth a couple of times on Messenger last night. Just, again, people, we really need to lift up one another. You know, what Ryan did, what Cemetery did, what Brandon is doing. This stuff is nothing short of amazing. It really is. It's fighting the good fight. It's courageous. And doggone it, I'm going to yell about it. For real. I go off on rants. Those are the rants I ought to be going off on. You know what I mean? Yeah. Lady Fi says, I know people who drink nail polish remover. It's, you brought up the isopropyl rubbing alcohol. For the longest time, that was referred to as a Kitty Dukakis, because the gentleman that ran for president, Michael Dukakis, had a wife named Kitty, and Kitty Dukakis went to the Betty Ford Center and ended up having to be airlifted out because they had left a bottle of cleaning supplies in the closet, and she got a hold of a bottle of rubbing alcohol and drank the entire thing. And that was.
Well, congratulations, Cemetery. That's a great thing. 4 months. Not sure how you pulled it off. Yeah.
And coming off of the 5th at a whack. I mean, 4 months of sobriety for anybody, for anything, for any reason is impressive. But that is an epic addiction. I mean, you were that's in the life hard. Well done, Cemetery. Seriously, well done.
Anybody that beats that high level of anything, man. I mean,
amen.
They should. Wow.
Take a lap.
Yeah, for real. I mean, again, I think all of us at some level, we were at high levels. I mean, you can't really deny that because we were doing stupid things. There's really no other reason why we would do stupid things because, Eva said it earlier. That's all your brain can think about. She said that a little while ago.
Yeah.
That's what your brain thinks. Your brain thinks you need that over anything else. So, yeah.
Yeah, well done, Cemetery. True story. Proud of you, man. Proud of you. You too, Brandon. I'd say, you know what? We're at the top of the hour. People, my hat's off to each and every one of you fighting the good fight. Cemetery, great stuff. Brandon, good for you. And everybody else who's every single day getting up and having the courage to fight this thing. Having the courage to be honest and talk about your faults and come here and admit to the world the things that you've done because you want to be a better person. That takes guts. And I promise you here on the Lifeboat, we're going to celebrate that more and more because doggone it, we should. I am Captain Tommy Scoville. Tomorrow night at the same time, Mark and I will be back. Between now and then, you have one assignment. Reach out and try to save somebody. On the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
Good night, people.